we'd like to focus on how we develop the policies, which we think will be helpful for the policymakers when it comes to developing their own institutional academic integrity policies. To do this, we conducted literature review, and also we investigated the policies of institutions around the world, and then we conducted several rounds of discussions with the project partners, and then we developed these guidelines. Before I leave the word to Özgür Çelik and Irene Glendinning, who had an enormous job regarding the development of the guidelines, I'd like to briefly inform you about the content of today's presentation. Indeed, our main aim is introducing how we develop the policy, but also before we do this, I'd like to provide very basic information about the guidelines today here. Özgür, if you can move forward, please, to the objectives of our project here. Indeed, facing academic integrity threats is a 3-year project, and we are almost at the end of the project. So within these 3 years, we collaborated with several organizations, several partner institutions, including European Network for Academic Integrity, University of Maribor, University of Constance, and University of Porto. The project was funded by Turkish National Agency on behalf of European Union. Within the project, we had 3 basic aims, and the first project result focused on academic integrity policies, institutional academic integrity policies. The basic aim here was collecting policies, available policies from the institutions around the world, and then creating a corpus for the researchers. And then by the help of this corpus, we aim to develop a guideline for policymakers. And after creating this guideline, we aim to disseminate it to the policymakers via today's session. Secondly, in the project, we also thought that it would be more effective to have pedagogical policies supported by pedagogical materials. So under the second project result, we focus on developing pedagogical materials aligned with pedagogical policies. So again, we created a corpus of available pedagogical materials, and also we created our own materials as well. Under the third project result, we aim to help victims of academic misconduct. So those are suffering from any misconduct. We developed a platform under European Network for Academic Integrity, and in this portal, we are providing a secure platform to those victims, and we are providing guidance for those people. Now, I'd like to leave the word to Özgür. Özgür will be talking about the steps that we followed for the creation of the corpus, and then in the analysis before we develop this policy. The stage is yours, Özgür.
Thank you very much, Hocam. Hello, everyone. Today, we will introduce the academic integrity policy guidelines to you. First, I want to start by talking about how we developed these guidelines, and then I will show you the guidelines, and then we will go into details of each section one by one. Okay, so we call our guidelines as evidence-based because it is based on a rigorous systematic review. We started with analyzing academic integrity policy analysis studies, which there were 29 studies there. So we conducted a thematic analysis on these studies to identify the parts and subparts of the guidelines, and of course for the content of the guidelines. And we started with coding each study one by one. And we then translated these codes into themes. And during coding, we took notes from the studies that shows the nature of each code. And using these codes, themes, and the notes we took during thematic analysis, we created content of the guidelines. So this was the initial draft for us. And then we set up an expert group. You can see the names of the group there. And with the group, with the expert team, we conducted 6 revision cycles. In each cycles, our expert team revised gave feedback for the guidelines, and we revised them again and again. And at the end of the 6th revision cycle, we finalized our guidelines. Now I want to show you how it looks like. So our guidelines, you can find the guidelines document on INAI website. I will share this link on the chat. Okay, you can find the link on the chat. So this is the page where you can find the guidelines, and here you can see that you can find the PDF version. Let me show you a little bit. The document is a bit long. It is, as far as I remember, it is 57 pages long. Okay, so this is the guidelines we developed in the FATE project. The title of the guidelines is Guidelines on Developing Effective Academic Integrity Policies. It's a comprehensive guide for higher education institutions. We call it comprehensive because it is really comprehensive. We almost covered all aspects related to academic integrity policies. It's like a reference resource. So there are some details about the guidelines here, and you can find about the information about the FATE project and how we developed the guidelines, and the purpose, structure, and content of the guidelines are here. Our guidelines have 5 parts, which we will talk now. Okay, this is the basic structure of our guidelines. We have valuable info for each part, and we supported the guidelines with some notes and some images, supportive images. Okay, you can find the guidelines on the INAI website, and you can find the link to download on the chat. So basically, this is the guidelines. Now let's delve into each part one by one and talk about what each part and subparts cover in our guidelines. Okay, as you have seen, our guidelines have 5 main parts. These parts are also the themes of our thematic analysis, coming from the thematic analysis. So the parts are policy scope, structure, and accessibility, policy promotion, education, and integration, policy implementation and procedures, monitoring and oversight, and tools and support. Of course, all these parts have some subtopics. We will also talk about these subtopics. And the subtopics are coming from the codes that make up the themes, as you can see here. Okay, let's start with the first one, which is the policy scope, structure, and accessibility. This part mainly focus on the structural aspects of academic integrity policies, and this part provide guidance on the scope and structure of these policies. You can see the subtopics that we mentioned, that we covered under this part. So the subtopics are introduction, the big picture, scope and contents, using visuals, access to policy, discourse, and definitions. We can start with the introduction part. So the introduction part is how it looks like, as you can see on the screenshot here in our guidelines. For each topic, I divided this part into three sub-paragraphs, such as definition, purpose, and core message. Since we have a lot of subtopics, I will quickly mention them one by one. So you can read the whole content on the policy, but I will just give a brief information about the related topic. And the introduction part communicates the institution's commitment to academic integrity as a shared responsibility. So it tells us that it's not merely a set of rules, and it establishes why academic integrity matters and frames it as essential for both institutional credibility and student development. So the introduction parts of academic integrity policies are essential because this part sets the tone of the policy. And this part especially frames and articulates why academic integrity matters within the context of that particular institution. Okay, moving on to the big picture title. So this title gives us a high-level perspective on how academic integrity policies fit within the broader institutional framework. So in this part, we emphasize that integrity isn't an isolated concept. It is intertwined with quality assurance, governance, and the leadership. So by integrating academic integrity into these systems, we can ensure continuous oversight and accountability. This is a very nicely written part. Irene wrote this part, and I highly suggest you to read this part. Okay, now the scope and contents. So in this section outlines the areas covered by the academic integrity policy, such as who and what is covered, students, faculty, research activities, and administrative functions, etc. This part is important because clearly specifying these areas ensures that everyone understands theoretical responsibilities from classroom conduct to research practices. Okay, and another topic in this part is using visuals. Visuals such as diagrams, flowcharts, and other visual aids can be used to simplify complex processes and make policy more engaging and accessible. You know, students may have difficulties in understanding the documents such as policies, but some visuals can help them to understand the flows or the other issues better. And these visuals help clarify, for example, the reporting procedures, or they can illustrate the policy's overall structure. And with the help of these visuals, we can reduce misunderstandings, and we can promote adherence to the academic integrity policies. In our guidelines, we also used some visuals. You can see some screenshots here. We benefited from visuals so that our guidelines are more understandable by our readers. So using visuals is a good idea for the comprehensibility of the academic integrity policies. Okay, another very important topic is the access to the policy. You know, accessibility is the key. The policies are valuable if you can access them. So here we stress the importance of making the policy easily available to all stakeholders, whether through the institutional websites or learning management systems or in printed forms. So accessibility ensures a broad access and this removes the barriers and make it easier for us to comply with the guidelines. If students have no access to their institutional policies, they don't know where to find them, so we cannot get them responsible for the academic integrity related issues. So first, the first thing we need to do is to ensure the easy access to our institutional policies, especially academic integrity policy. Another topic of this part is the discourse. Discourse means it refers to the tone and style of the policy. So it's very important that the language used in the policy documents is supportive, respectful, and educational rather than punitive or overly legalistic. So the language really matters. A positive discourse in the policy documents foster a culture where academic integrity is seen as a shared value, and a positive discourse encourages ethical behavior as a part of everyday academic life. So we have more about this topic on our guidelines, but basically the tone of the language really matters from the reader perspective. So they perceive the policies in a better way when we use a more supportive or respectful language when writing the policies. Okay, the last topic of the first part is the definitions. So these are the clear explanations of key terms related to academic integrity. So why this part is important? It is important because it is just related to clarifying key terms such as what constitutes academic misconduct, what practices are acceptable, and what are the challenges, the emerging challenges, for example, the use of AI and the AI-related terminology, etc. And this is important because such clear definitions prevent ambiguity and help ensure that everyone is on the same page, everyone understands the same thing from the definitions in the policies. So the main purpose of writing clear definitions is to prevent the ambiguity here. Okay, so this was the end of the first part. And in our guidelines, we put a short takeaway paragraph for each part, as you can see in the screenshot. At the end of each part, we have a takeaway paragraph. You can find it on our policy guidelines. Okay, let's move on to the second part. In the first part, we talked about the structural issues of the policy, and now we are moving on more pedagogical and educational aspects of academic integrity policies. So the title of this part is Policy Promotion, Education, and Integration, and this part focuses on raising awareness of academic integrity and embedding academic integrity messages into institutional culture, curriculum, and providing education and training, etc. So we have some subtopics in this part. Let's look at them. These are integrating academic integrity into curricula, education and training, approach to academic integrity council, student involvement, and honor pledge. Okay, let's talk about each one of them one by one and start with the integration of academic integrity messages into curricula. It is very important, I think. So this part focuses on integrating academic integrity related issues to curriculum, to syllabus, etc. It is important because embedding such principles, integrity principles, in course materials or assessment processes ensures that students encounter these values throughout their academic journey, not as outside of their academic journey. So this continuous exposure reinforces the idea that academic integrity is fundamental value of their own coursework. It is not a different course, but it is a requirement. It's a fundamental base for their own course, no matter what course it is. So it is related to, it is valid for every course. Academic integrity is not a distinct standalone course, but it's a part of their own course, and we should integrate these messages into the syllabuses of each course. Okay, apart from integrating academic integrity into curricula, of course, we can have some extra educational and training. And the purpose here is to equip all stakeholders with the knowledge and skills needed to uphold academic integrity. This is an essential endeavor because it outlines the structured learning opportunities, such as, for example, workshops, seminars, or training sessions for students, faculty, and staff, maybe. But here, the goal is to equip everyone with the necessary skills. These skills can be giving proper citation or conducting ethical research, etc. And in the end, we aim to foster a proactive culture of integrity through education and training within the institutions. Okay, another topic emerged under this part is the approach to academic integrity, which is very, very important. You can see the screenshot of this part in our guidelines. And now let's talk about what this part is. So in this part, we try to explain the overall approach to academic integrity. So how we can approach academic integrity in our policy documents. And we can say that instead of just focusing on punitive measures or punishment, or just emphasizing the punitive issues, it's a problem for academic integrity policies. Instead, we need to emphasize the proactive prevention, support, and ethical development of students, because a positive and educational stance helps students understand integrity as a learning goal rather than merely a set of restrictive rules. You know, there are two approaches to academic integrity. One is, in the literature, it is called the gotcha approach, the punitive one. And the other one is the educational or integrity approach. In our policy, we need to structure, we need to define, emphasize what approach to academic integrity we adopt in our policy guidelines. Of course, preferably, we need to adopt an integrity approach, educational approach, rather than a punitive one. Okay, next one is Academic Integrity Council. The council refers to a dedicated body responsible of overseeing academic integrity policies. It's an integral part of academic upholding academic integrity. It's a dedicated body. So the main responsibility of this body is to oversee policy implementation, providing guidance and ensuring accountability, or helping with the education and training. And the leadership, of course, is crucial for maintaining consistency and trust in the implementation of integrity standards, and this can be achieved through such councils. Every institution should have such councils and they should have certain responsibilities because such dedicated bodies can act as a leader in upholding academic integrity and organizing the events in terms of education or training, etc. Okay, so one of the most important topics of this part is the student involvement. It is basically encouraging the students to take an active role in promoting academic integrity because student involvement is the key to a successful integrity policy. By actively involving students in councils or peer education programs and awareness campaigns, we can empower them to take ownership of academic integrity. And through this engagement, this engagement not only reinforces their commitment, but also strengthens the overall ethical structure of the institution. Students are very important stakeholders of academic integrity, of an academic integrity culture at the institution. And we need to see students as ambassadors of academic integrity. Okay, the last one is honor pledge. Honor pledge is a formal statement that the students sign to affirm their commitment to academic integrity. This is more an American culture, we can say that. In Europe or in maybe some other parts of the world, honor pledges, honor codes are not that common. It's mostly an American practice, but in many academic integrity research, we can see the issues about honor pledge. That's why we included in our guidelines. So basically, it's a formal statement that students sign to show their commitment to academic integrity. The main purpose of honor pledges is that they reinforce personal accountability in terms of students, of course, and they serve as a constant reminder of the institution's shared values. It's simple, yes, it's simple, yet it can be a powerful way to encourage ethical behavior. Okay, now this was the last topic of part 2, and let's move on to part 3. Now we talked about the policies, educational and pedagogical aspects. Now we are moving on how we can implement the policies and the procedures when implementing the academic integrity policies. So the purpose of this part is establishing clear, fair, and transparent processes for handling academic integrity breaches, ensuring due processes and accountability, of course. We have some subtopics on this part. These are potential breaches, record keeping, reporting procedure, investigation of breaches, responsibility of stakeholders, equity, diversity and inclusion, measures to address misconduct, appeal process, and restorative justice process. In this part, we will talk about the sanctions, misconducts, and these are not our favorite topics, but we need to talk about these topics because they are part of academic integrity policies. We can talk about how we can approach such issues from an educational perspective. And we can start with the potential breaches. The breaches are different forms of academic integrity violations, and the most common one is plagiarism, and there is collusion, contract cheating, etc. And the best thing we can do about these breaches is to clearly outline what these breaches are, and ensure that the enforcement is consistent in terms of these breaches. Students need to be clear about the definitions of each breach and the consequences of breaches. They need to know about the consequences and definitions. So the core message here is that clearly outlining academic integrity breaches helps us prevent misunderstanding, and this helps us ensure consistent implementation in terms of potential academic integrity violations. Okay, another topic is record keeping. Record keeping is also vital for tracking or managing cases of academic misconduct. And here in this part, we try to explain the importance of maintaining systematic and confidential, of course, records for academic misconduct, because proper record keeping may support fairness and help identify maybe trends in the institutions and inform the future policy improvements in institutions on context. Okay, and also, of course, record keeping helps support institutional decision-making processes. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. It is the reporting procedure. This means a structure process for students, faculty, and staff to report the suspected violations. Here in the policy documents, the reporting procedure should be very clear, very accessible, and confidential. They should be confidential, and the reporting mechanisms, the reporting procedure should only encourage transparency, but also protect those who come forward. So it's a very delicate part, and it should be carefully written. We have more about this topic in our guidelines, and you can read the issues about reporting procedure in our guidelines. Okay, and there's the investigation issue, investigation of breaches. So this is the process of examining reported misconduct cases and determining the validity of misconduct cases. And once a breach, a violation is reported to the institution, it is very important to investigate it very carefully. And in this part, we try to explain the investigation processes and ensure that all the allegations are assessed fairly and with due process, because a robust investigation process reinforces the integrity and credibility of the policy and for the academic integrity culture. And we have the responsibilities of stakeholders. Before, academic integrity was seen as a student responsibility only, but now we know that it is the responsibility of all the stakeholders in an institution. All the stakeholders have their own roles and responsibilities for academic integrity. And here we try to clarify the roles and responsibilities of all stakeholders. This is important because by clearly defining these responsibilities, we can foster a collective accountability and ensure that all the stakeholders are actively involved in upholding academic integrity. And another topic is the equity, diversity, and inclusion. So these are fundamental to a fair academic integrity environment, because integrity policies must be applied equitably, taking into account the diverse backgrounds and needs of all members at the institutions. So with this approach, we then inclusive approach, we can prevent bias and promote trust in our institution. Okay, and we have the measures to address misconducts, which are called sanctions or the corrective actions. And when breaches occur, the response must be both appropriate and educational, not just punitive. So in this part, we try to outline the measures to address the misconduct, measures such as sanctions or corrective actions. And these measures should be designed to deter future violation while promoting ethical growth. So the aim here should be to balance the deterrence with learning, not just punish the students who committed academic misconduct. Okay, after the academic misconduct, we have the appeal process. Appeal process refers to the mechanism that allows students or the faculty to contest the academic misconduct decisions. An effective academic integrity policy includes a fair appeal process. And here we try to describe how students and faculty can contest decisions regarding academic misconduct. A structured, a transparent appeal mechanism builds trust in the policy and ensures that every case is handled justly, and this increases the credibility of academic integrity policy. And the last but not least, and my favorite one, the restorative justice process. I really like this approach to academic misconduct because first, let me define what this is. It's a method of addressing academic misconduct by focusing on reflection, accountability, and repairing harm. So this is a very important approach. Rather than just focusing on punishment, restorative justice emphasizes reflection, accountability, and repairing harm. By turning a violation into a learning experience, restorative justice encourages long-term ethical commitment. So here we turn a violation into a learning experience. This is a very good approach, I think. So it transforms academic misconducts into a learning experience. The students reflect on their actions, reflect on how their actions affected to other parties around him or her. So they reflect on this, and we can turn these violations into a learning experience for them. Okay, so this was the last topic of part 3, and now we will move on to part 4, which is monitoring and oversight. Now I will kindly ask Irene to talk about this part. Irene?
Thank you very much, Özgür. Very good. So this part is really quite important. There are 3 topics in this part. It's about developing and maintaining policies, monitoring and reviewing policies, and updating policies. Now, I particularly like this slide because back in 1968, when I first learned computer programming, the first computer I worked on was a first-generation computer called a JUICE. And the control panel for that looked rather like this thing here, surprisingly. So, Özgür, I'm not sure where you got that picture from, but I liked you very much, so thank you very much. So I'm going to look at these 3 components of the monitoring and oversight in turn. So let's start with the developing and maintaining policies. So I think we need to think about where people are starting from. So if you're developing policies for academic integrity, people start from different starting points and they have different histories, backgrounds. And so we need to accept that there isn't one standard way of defining policies. They're all different. And it's important that you create those policies based on what your institutional needs are, and then keep refining and sustaining those policies over time. So that's really quite an important thing to emphasize here. It must be right for that institution. But in developing those policies, it's important that you include lots of different people. So you have to have an inclusive approach to developing. Otherwise, the policies are not going to be accepted. You can't just impose policies on an institution, particularly if they're very different from what happened before. So in terms of the development, there's got to be a consultation involving lots of people. It's got to be very inclusive. But it's also about communicating, listening, being prepared to adjust things that are not working very well. And it's probably very good to have some kind of a steering committee to help to both develop and implement those policies. Because as it says here, it's got to be built on solid foundations. It's got to be practical, and it's got to evolve over time to meet the needs of the institution, but also to meet the needs of the evolving threats to integrity. And there has to be a long-term commitment within the institution to academic integrity, and that can only be done through solidly developed policies. So let's move on to monitoring and reviewing policies now. So this is about continuous assessment, continuous evaluation of what's going on in the institution. And what it says in the guidelines is that there should be a review every year of an annual review of what's going on, whether the policies are working well, are they functioning well, what are the sticking points? Because we're looking for things that work well, they're efficient in terms of the speed that these processes can be carried out, but also not skimping in time or resources in terms of supporting the students and so on. So you're looking for weaknesses and you're looking to put those right. So if you have an annual review and you keep them up to date, looking for the strengths and weaknesses, improving as you go through, then the more major reviews don't need to take place that often, probably every 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. You can have a major review, unless something happens, like the advent of generative AI, for example, where you need to have a rethink about policies, or if the policies are simply not working very well. So this kind of monitoring review will help with that. And so if I can go back to what Özgür said on the last part, he talked about the record keeping. So the record keeping will feed into this kind of monitoring and review process, and particularly if you do that annually, to make sure that you're looking at the cause, you're looking at where the weaknesses are, and you're looking at where things are going wrong, and you're trying to put those things right. So the core message then to remain effective, adaptable, and responsive to anything that emerges in terms of integrity threats. So let's just look at updating policies. Actually, updating policies is very similar to developing them in the first place. It's important that you communicate any changes and you respond to the new challenges, but also listen to the needs of the different people involved, the stakeholders within the process, because we all know that integrity involves everybody in the institution. It's not just about a select few. It's actually everybody's responsibility. So listen to the feedback that you get and update the policies based on those challenges, but then communicate those policies, provide any training that's necessary for people who are involved in implementing those policies and the procedures. But make sure those policies are kept up to date and that they're current. And the other thing that needs to be done here is that you keep your eye on what's going on in the broader world. There are lots of new ideas come up from time to time in research and so on, so that you can learn from the experience of others and you can improve your policies, and clearly to make sure they stay relevant. So I'm going to hand back now to Özgür, who's going to do the part 5.
Yeah, thank you very much, Irene. Now I will continue with the part 5, which is tools and support. in this part, we will focus on the resources, technologies, and institutional mechanisms to assist students, faculty, and staff in upholding academic integrity. We have 4 subtopics in this part. These are using text matching tools, support mechanisms, academic writing tools, and guidelines on AI. Let's start with the text matching tools, which is mostly and wrongly used as plagiarism tools. These are just tools that compare student work against the existing text to detect similarity or potential plagiarism, and the plagiarism can only be identified through human oversight. Okay, these tools, these software applications help detect potential plagiarism by comparing student work and the other existing texts. But it is important, the important thing is that using these tools as learning aid is important. But in most cases, these tools are used as just plagiarism detectors. But we need to learn more about using such tools as learning aids to support ethical writing rather than penalizing student errors. We have a very nicely written part in our guidelines about using text matching tools, and I recommend you to read this part. And let's move on to support mechanisms. Students, faculty, and staff, everybody needs support, and it is important to provide support mechanisms in our policy guidelines, in our policies. So this part highlights the various support mechanisms available within an institutions, from advisors and workshops to mentorship programs. We have lots of different support mechanisms. We can have them. And these resources can be designed to guide students and faculty in understanding and upholding academic integrity. As we always said, integrity is a shared responsibility rather than just a compliance issue. Therefore, we need to offer effective support mechanisms to especially students. Okay, we have lots of academic writing tools. Now with the emergence of Gen AI, we have more than that. We used to have 3, but now we have lots of academic writing tools. And these tools may have different purposes. We have some citation managers, grammar checkers, or writing assistants. So these tools play a crucial role in promoting ethical scholarship. And in this part, we try to explain how such resources help students develop proper writing skills by adhering to the integrity standards and complementing critical thinking. Of course, such tools can be used as a misconduct resource, as a misconduct tool, but it is important to use such tools as learning aids within the standards of academic integrity, and drawing a framework about using such tools on academic integrity policies is very essential. And similarly, we have the Gen AI tools, of course. Gen AI had a deep impact, especially on academic writing. So at this point, it is very essential to have clear guidelines for its ethical and responsible use. So in our guidelines, we dedicated a long part for this use of Gen AI in academic writing. And it is very important to ensure that innovation such as Gen AI is balanced with strict adherence to academic integrity principles. You can find a very nice part in our guidelines about the use of Gen AI tools in education. So, so this was the last part and last topic of part 5. And now we can talk about the implementation issue. Now we have a disclaimer here. I want to read this disclaimer to you. Okay, we worked hard to develop these guidelines document, and we call it evidence-based, yes, but these guidelines are derived from academic literature, and it serves as a reference with evidence-based guidelines. The guidelines do not mandate that every topic must be implemented exactly as described in our policy guidelines, but instead it provides a framework for consideration, and implementation should be adapted to the specific context and needs of each institution. Okay, now we can talk about some key highlights of implementing these guidelines or developing effective academic integrity policies. This will be like a summary. First, we need to define a clear purpose and a guiding philosophy so that everyone understands why the policy exists and what it aims to achieve. Second, we need to integrate the policy within the broader institutional framework. We need to ensure that its alignment with the quality assurance, governance, and leadership oversight. You remember the big picture issue that we talked at the very beginning. And next, we need to use precise definitions to eliminate ambiguity in key terms. And we need to ensure that the policy is accessible and communicated effectively through the institution. And incorporating visual aids and simplifying complex procedures and enhancing understanding is key in the comprehensibility of the policy documents. And we need to develop robust procedures for reporting, investigating, and addressing breaches in a way that is both fair and confidential. And another important issue is prioritizing continuous education and training to promote ethical behavior rather than just focusing on punitive measures. And lastly, building mechanisms for regularly monitoring, reviewing, and updating to keep the policy relevant is essential, because policies are living documents. They need regular updates, regular monitoring, and we need to keep them alive. Okay, so this was the end of our presentation, and we can move forward to the Q&A session, and I will ask Irene helps at this point again.
Well, I hope we can all answer some questions. Have you any questions, anyone? There aren't any questions in the chat, so please put your hand up or open your mic and give us some questions.
Hello, everyone. Irene, special greetings to you. I'm Magda Kojauri. I represent Tel Aviv State University, and we are implementing the ethics project. And I, as one of the most important partners within this project, that is of a crucial importance. And thank you for this presentation. It was very, very interesting. And yeah, we face the challenge nowadays of the academic integrity. It's a great issue, especially in the era of AI. So I think the thing we need to do is to discuss and to work on it all the time, because of the development of technologies and because of the challenges that we are facing. Thank you again for raising this important issue of the 21st century. Thank you. It was very interesting. And good luck.
I hope you read through the guidelines and you find them useful. And I think the other point to say to everyone is that if you have anything in the guidelines that either you violently disagree with or you think is missing, then let us know. And because it is a living document, it's not going to be static. It's not going to sit there forever and not be changed. It will change over time, I'm sure, and we will add things to it. We might even change some of the things in there over time. And because it's on the European Network website, it's accessible to everyone. Hopefully everyone will use it, because we haven't developed it just to sit there. It's there to be used, and we hope that people will find it useful.
Thank you very much. We will discuss with our colleagues, the people who are responsible for this, and thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Please share it as widely as you like.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
Sorry.
David, do you have anything?
No,
Yes, David.
yes, no question, just comment. Thank you for the presentation. I just downloaded. It's good that it's open access, and actually, as you mentioned, as a living reference, we get back to that definitely. I mean, project I'm part of, this is the project funded by Host Cooperation on Science and Technology, which deals with the rising geopolitics, new nationalism, and the future of higher education. And within one working package, we are working actually to the similar one, which deals with the academic integrity. But basically, we are working towards establishing the permanent infrastructure, which starts from the monitoring integrity on ground at different universities within the common framework, starting from this point, ending with the defending academics at risk due to different reasons in different parts. Primarily, we are covering the space of the European Union. So basically, yes, exactly. I will take this and share with my group members in the working package. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for attending the presentation and for your comments. We'd be interested to see the results of your research as well. So keep in touch.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I will just drop the website, and then you can see and check how it is progressing.
Lovely.
This
Thank
is
you
the
very
second
much.
year. I will drop here the email. So sorry, website.
We might invite you to come and talk to one of our working groups as well. That sounds interesting. Thank you. There is a comment in the chat now. I'll have it from Bram Hoffman. Bram, do you want to open your mic and just talk? He said, "Thank you for the fantastic presentation on the very useful guidelines. This is a valuable resource I intend to use as policy officer at the University of Netherlands." Thank you very much. Thank you, David. So the link is there.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more questions? Well, can I pass back to Özgür to finish off, or to Salim, who's going to finish off?
Hi, good evening.
Yes, Salim Hocam.
Oh, so Amani, do you want to come and ask a question?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're very,
we
very
cannot-
faint, just about.
Can you hear me now?
You're very quiet. Do you want to put your question in the chat? I think we're just about out of time, aren't we, Özgür? Do you want to finish off, or Salim, do you want to say something at the end?
Indeed, I'd like to thank you both, Irene and Özgür, for this wonderful presentation. I'm sure institutions around the world will find it useful, because it's very much needed, especially considering the developments relating to generative AI. And hopefully we will be publishing our research, our forthcoming research supporting the guidelines, and we will share more analysis that will be helpful for policy researchers as well. And I'd like to thank all contributors of the FATE project, and thanks for their contribution as well for the guidelines.
Özgür, last word?
First of all, I would like to thank you for the listeners, for listening to the presentation today. I hope you find the presentation useful, and please share it with everyone else so that we can reach a wide range of readers. And I also would like to thank Irene. She helped me a lot with this guidelines. Thank you very much, Irene. Without you, we couldn't really achieve this. We come so far. So we are happy that we completed the guidelines, but we have, as Salim just said, we have more research jobs to do. Hopefully, we will complete them in a couple of months and share our research with you, research behind the guidelines with you. Thank you for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, and
Bye.
thank you again. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Bye.